The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm amber glow that spilled over the sprawling urban jungle below. The city was alive, buzzing with the restless energy of millions. Cars honked impatiently at intersections, the clatter of footsteps echoed off towering skyscrapers, and the faint hum of engines filled every alley and avenue. It was a city that never truly slept, its veins pulsing with ambition, danger, and raw opportunity. But amid the chaos, a story was about to unfold, one that would rewrite the rules of the streets and etch a new legend into the city's very bones. Down one crowded street, two figures roared past on a sleek black motorcycle, their presence impossible to ignore. Angela, with her fierce determination shining through every line of her body, leaned into the wind like a force of nature. Beside her, Gotti gripped the handlebars with the steady confidence of a man who'd seen it all but wasn't backing down from anything. The bike thundered beneath them like a wild beast unleashed, weaving skillfully through the traffic, daring anyone to challenge their dominance. Their speed was intoxicating, their control effortless, every twist and turn a dance of danger and precision. The city watched them in awe, as if the streets themselves recognized their power. But across the road, standing tall and unyielding, was GloRilla. Her eyes were sharp, burning with a fire that matched the fading sun. She wasn't just watching, she was calculating, planning, ready to strike. The bike, the speed, the adrenaline, it was hers to take, and she wasn't about to let Angela and Gotti claim it first. Her voice was barely a whisper, but the words carried the weight of a vow. Not today, not on my watch. In that moment, the city held its breath, sensing the storm about to break loose. With a sudden burst of energy, GloRilla sprang into motion. She darted around the corner where a dirt bike was parked, barely hesitating before slamming her hands onto the handlebars and firing up the engine. The roar was fierce, matching the pounding of her heart as she launched herself onto the street. Every muscle was coiled tight with focus, every nerve electrified with anticipation. She wasn't just chasing two riders, she was chasing her destiny. The bike roared in defiance as she pushed it to its limits, tires sparking against the asphalt as she tore after Angela and Gotti. The chase exploded into life. Angela and Gotti glanced back, surprise flickering in their eyes at the sudden challenge. They weren't expecting GloRilla to be so fast, so determined. But neither of them was about to slow down. Angela's smirk was fierce, her confidence unshaken. They think they can catch us, they don't know what's coming. Gotti's grin was wide and fearless, the kind of smile that only someone who owns the streets could wear. Let's remind him who's boss. And with that, the trio disappeared into the city's labyrinth, engines screaming and adrenaline surging. GloRilla's determination was unbreakable. She twisted the throttle harder, weaving through traffic with near-perfect precision. The streets blurred into a chaotic mix of colors and sounds, but her focus never wavered. She knew every shortcut, every hidden alley, every inch of this urban jungle. This wasn't just a chase. It was a battle for control, a test of will and skill, and she was ready to win. As they sped through the city, the landscape changed from bustling downtown avenues to the gritty outskirts, where cracked pavement and graffiti-covered walls told stories of battles fought and won. The air grew thick with tension, charged with the electricity of the chase. Angela and Gotti pushed their bike harder, but GloRilla was relentless. Her dirt bike's tires gripped the pavement with ferocity, each corner cut with razor-sharp precision. She was closing the distance, the gap shrinking with every heartbeat. Angela's breath came hard, her hands steady, but her eyes sharp with calculated urgency. Gotti was equally focused, his jaw tight as he anticipated GloRilla's moves. The chase was more than speed. It was a mental game, a clash of wills as much as horsepower. Every twist and turn was met with a countermove, every acceleration answered with a surge of power. The city seemed to fade away around them, leaving only the sound of engines, the rush of wind, and the pounding of their hearts. This was a battle of legends in the making, a high-stakes dance where only the strongest would survive. And GloRilla was ready to prove she was the fiercest of all. Finally, the moment arrived. GloRilla pulled alongside Angela and Gotti, the two pairs of eyes locking in fierce, unspoken understanding. "This city's mine too," GloRilla shouted, her voice cutting through the roar of the engines and the wind. There was no hesitation in her words, only a fierce declaration that shook the air around them. Angela turned her head, a mixture of surprise and grudging respect flashing in her eyes. "You got guts," she said, voice steady, but her fingers tightened on the throttle. Yo Gotti leaned forward, muscles tense, eyes blazing. You want to ride with us? You better bring more than words. GloRilla smiled, a smile that held both promise and challenge. Watch and learn, she said. Without warning, the motorcycle hit a hidden power boost, a secret weapon carefully concealed beneath the seat. The engine roared louder, flames licking the exhaust pipe as the bike surged forward like a creature awakened. GloRilla's grip tightened on the back of the bike, her hands white with strain. The air around them crackled with energy, sparks flying from the tires as the speedometer climbed higher and higher. And then, explosion. However, on the opposite side of the street, halfway in the shadow of a faded mural, GloRilla froze mid-step. Her gaze locked on them instantly. The sight hit her like a gut punch she didn't see coming. There was Angela, of all people, pressed up against Yo Gotti on his bike, like she'd been there her whole life. GloRilla's chest tightened and a slow, sharp burn started deep in her stomach, climbing up into her throat. It wasn't just jealousy. It was the insult, the public display, the way they rolled through her part of the city like they owned it. Her jaw clenched so tight it ached. GloRilla didn't move for a moment, didn't even blink. She just watched the bike glide to a stop outside a small corner store up ahead, the engine cutting off in a sharp growl before going silent. Angela slid off first, smoothing her hair, still smiling. Yo Gotti swung his leg over the bike with the easy grace of someone who knew people were watching. They laughed again, loud enough for it to reach GloRilla's ears. That was it. That laugh was the spark that lit the fuse. GloRilla's pulse slowed instead of speeding up, the way it does for some people when anger sharpens into something colder, more deliberate. She watched them from a distance, her eyes narrow, her breathing steady. She didn't yell. She didn't call out. She didn't walk over and start something in the middle of the sidewalk. That wasn't her style. If Yo Gotti wanted to parade Angela around on that bike like some trophy, he was about to learn that trophies can get stolen, scratched, and, if necessary, destroyed. She stepped back into the alley beside her, the light dimming around her like the city itself was pulling her into shadow. Her hand slipped into the inside pocket of her jacket, closing around the smooth, cool handle of her switchblade. It felt good in her palm, familiar, balanced, dangerous. She flicked it open with a quick click, the sound swallowed by the hum of the city. The blade caught the dying sunlight for just a second, glinting like a warning. Across the street, Yo Gotti and Angela were disappearing into the corner store, completely oblivious. They didn't even glance back at the bike, at his pride and joy, resting on its kickstand like a sleeping panther. GloRilla's lips pressed into a thin line. Bad move, Gotti. Real bad move. She crossed the street with the smooth, unhurried pace of someone who didn't need to run to make trouble. Her boots hit the pavement with a steady rhythm, her eyes fixed on the target. A couple of guys leaning on a wall nearby watched her approach, curiosity flickering across their faces, but she didn't look their way. Her entire focus was on that rear tire, thick and perfect, the kind of tire that could grip a street like a handshake. She crouched down beside it, the cool metal of the rim gleaming under her fingertips. Then she slid the blade into place, pressing it against the rubber. For a split second, she held it there, her grip steady. And then, shush. The sound was sharp and satisfying, like the hiss of a snake striking. Air rushed out in a steady, angry stream, the tire sagging almost immediately. She didn't move right away. She watched the life go out of the tire, felt the bike's balance shift slightly as the rim dipped toward the ground. Then she pulled the blade free, wiped it on her jeans, and snapped it shut in one smooth motion. Sliding it back into her pocket, she stood, giving the bike one last, deliberate glance. Her smile was small but dangerous. "Let's see you ride that now," she murmured under her breath. GloRilla didn't leave. That wasn't the point. She stepped back into the crowd at the edge of the block, leaning casually against a lamppost. From there, she had the perfect view of the store's entrance and the bike. A minute later, the door swung open. Yo Gotti and Angela stepped out, plastic bags in hand. Angela was still mid-laugh when she noticed something was off. Gotti," she said, her voice hesitant now. Gotti followed her gaze, and his smile dropped instantly. Hell no." He crouched by the tire, pressing his hand against the sagging rubber. His head came up slowly, scanning the street. Angela folded her arms. Somebody's sending a message. From her spot under the lamppost, GloRilla's eyes locked with his. No smile now, just that steady, unblinking look that said, "Yeah, it was me." And what? Gotti's jaw tightened. He didn't say a word, but the heat in his stare was enough to let her know this wasn't over. Angela glanced between them, reading the tension like an open book. The crowd was starting to notice. A couple of teenagers pulled out their phones, recording quietly from the sidelines. The air seemed to thicken, heavy with the kind of energy that makes people step back just in case something pops off. But GloRilla didn't move toward him. She didn't need to. She pushed off the lamppost slowly, turned on her heel, and started walking away. Her boots echoed against the pavement, the sound deliberate, measured. She didn't look back, but she knew he was still watching her. That was the point. She didn't need to shout. She didn't need to swing. Sometimes the loudest message is the one you deliver without saying a word. The world seemed to freeze for a heartbeat, then shattered in a blaze of fire and smoke. The bike and GloRilla became a comet of flames streaking through the air, the explosion lighting up the city like a wildfire. Shockwaves rippled outward, shattering windows and sending debris scattering. But amid the chaos, there was transformation. From the smoke and fire, GloRilla rose like a phoenix, standing tall and fierce. Her clothes were singed, hair wild, but her eyes burned brighter than ever with the unstoppable power of a true warrior. The city watched, breath caught in its throat, as the woman who dared to challenge the streets emerged victorious. Angela and Gotti slowed, pulling to the side with faces etched in awe and respect. "Damn," Angela breathed. "She's something else." Gotti nodded silently, understanding that this moment had changed everything. The game had shifted. The legend of GloRilla had begun. GloRilla stood amidst the fading flames, chest heaving, eyes blazing with the fire of triumph. The city spread out behind her, a vast playground of opportunity and challenge. "Catch me if you can," she said softly, a promise and a warning wrapped in one breath. The streets would never be the same again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, fiery letters flickered on the screen: GloRilla, unstoppable. The city's heartbeat grew louder, the promise of new stories and battles yet to come filling the air. The narrator's voice came in, deep and resonant. This was more than a chase. It was a legacy forged in fire and steel. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the streets are just getting started. The screen faded to black as high-energy music surged, the beat promising that GloRilla's story was far from over.